Okay, I'm gonna do a quick video, hopefully quick, but a quicker video talking about three of the bigger trending topics of the weekend. The first one being the signing of the $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill by Donald Trump. And I keep hearing about a rebellion on the right about this. And for me, what should a rebellion mean? Well, if you want to, if you want to really make this backfire on your own interests, if you're somebody who doesn't believe in funding Planned Parenthood and does want the wall funded and does want DACA resolved, then you would probably you should not vote for a Democrat, and you should go out and vote in November or probably earlier than that. You should check your state for the primaries and primary out any Republicans that you think were responsible for this spending bill. By the way, the spending bill also includes things that are not related to spending, including the Cloud Act. The Cloud Act does violate a lot of First Amendment or no, Fourth Amendment provisions. Let me see here. Fourth Amendment violations. This is from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. A new backdoor around the Fourth Amendment is called the Cloud Act. So I'll put this in the description. Okay. It says there's a new proposed backdoor to our data which would bypass our Fourth Amendment protections and communications privacy. Is built into a dangerous bill called the Cloud Act, which would allow police at home and abroad to seize cross-border data without following the privacy rules where the data is stored. The backdoor is an insidious method for accessing our emails, our chat logs, our online videos and photos, and our private moments shared online between one another. This backdoor would deny us meaningful judicial review and the privacy protections embedded in our Constitution. This new backdoor for cross-border data mirrors another backdoor under Section 702 of the FISA Amendments Act, an invasive NSA surveillance authority for foreign intelligence gathering. That law, recently reauthorized and expanded by Congress for another 6 years, bipartisan, by the way, gives U.S. intelligence agencies, including the NSA, FBI, and CIA, the ability to search, read, and share our private electronic messages without first obtaining a warrant. The new backdoor in the Cloud Act operates much in the same way. U.S. police could obtain Americans' data and use it against them without complying with the Fourth Amendment. For this reason and many more, EFF strongly opposes the Cloud Act. Well, I happen to agree. I don't know much about the EFF, which I believe that they are they're a civil liberties group on the internet. And I might start just following them a little more, because obviously a lot of us are talking about this in relation to Facebook and other social media platforms. So you also have that issue with the omnibus spending bill being basically a betrayal of many of the principles of why Donald Trump was elected. Now, some people are saying, okay, he got a little bit of the wall funding. Okay, he got the defense spending that he really needed, and he said that at the press conference, which was, in my opinion, if I was Donald Trump, and I was really wanting to make a statement, I would have vetoed the bill. I don't care what General Mattis would have said. I would have said to Mattis, listen, you're great. You keep doing what you're doing, but this is retarded. We can't keep doing this. This is ridiculous. They're basically squeezing me every time, and I sign these budgets, and nothing gets done. If he would have vetoed it, I don't see any reason why anybody would have had to freak out. Now, everybody wants to talk about, oh, national security. We needed that money for national security. Look, I've never supported the Trump vision of expanding the military and funding the military even more. It's to me sounded like the most ridiculous plan ever. It's going to just balloon the deficit even more. just like all the entitlement spending the Democrats want to do. Yeah, I'm against defense spending just as much as I'm against uh, domestic civil spending. I think both of them are very poorly conceived ways of generating economic activity. And eventually they're going to lead us into, not eventually, they have led us into debt bondage to China and other countries. And I'm not going to, just because Donald Trump says, well, I needed this omnibus spending package because Mattis needs this in order to fight a war over there somewhere where where some godforsaken hellhole where, but none of us want to go. No, I'm not going to support it. I don't care about the 4D chess. I don't give a shit. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm for it. And there's a lot of people who they're downplaying it. They're saying, oh, you just have to have the belief that this is for the greater good, and Trump is he knows what he's doing and whatever. I don't give a fuck. Okay, it has nothing to do with Trump. If this was Rand Paul supporting it, I would have opposed it. It might have been harder for me to make my case because that's probably the politician that best mirrors the vision that I have. But in the end, you can't be beholden to a fucking politician just because you share their memes and you have their bumper sticker on your car, which I don't. I don't have any bumper stickers on my car because my car is a piece of shit, and there's nothing that's going to make it look better than it does already, except maybe trading it in and getting a different car. So no, I'm not going to support the bill. I'm not going to pretend to be one of these people that says, it's 4D chess and he knows what he's doing. And I know plenty of people who say that. Plenty of people who want to just gloss over, the fact that we continue to support this welfare state that is encouraging people to just give up on having a meaningful future where they have to try harder. I wish my life was much better than it is, but I don't blame the government for that, for it being this way. However, if we're talking about the country as a collective, yeah, you have to include Trump as one of the reasons, even if you voted for him, and I did, you have to include him as one of the reasons that we're getting further into debt. And in that respect, I agree with the being libertarian people who are very annoying at times, but I agree with them in that respect that this was a real betrayal of the principles. He's also going forward with some of that gun control crap that he was peddling. No, I'm not gonna support it. What do I look like, a moron or something? Now, about the broader question about what to do in terms of voting, that has nothing to do with Trump because, as you well know, he's not up for ballot this year. What you have to do is look at your voter guide and look at the races. You all have the fucking internet, so go into, if you're from the U.S. This doesn't apply to Bandsaw and all my other viewers from Australia and overseas. I think I have one viewer over in England or something. So the minority of you that are from overseas, I have a viewer from India. There's nothing you can do. So, and you might not care what's going on. But in any case, if you do live in the domestic, in the lower 48 and Alaska or Hawaii, go look up your voter guide for the primaries and find somebody who, if you have one, that's willing to join the Freedom Caucus in the House or is endorsed by Rand Paul in the Senate. Rand Paul or even Mike Lee to some degree is also good. I think he did vote for the package, the omnibus. So you can't trust anyone, right? What are you going to do? But you have to go for people that are going to really show up for. They're going to show up and do the work and really put pressure in the legislature against these bills. The fact is that you have two parties. Lionel Nation calls it the uniparty, and he's right. He is right. They may have it's almost like they go to the same school, but they're part of different fraternities or secret societies, the Democrats and the Republicans. Whenever it comes to anything that will boost the defense budget, one that will boost foreign aid to any country that we're on friendly terms with, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Israel or Ukraine or whatever, and I'm against foreign aid to all those countries, those people will vote for it because they do have the interest of defense contractors or other related industries in mind, and that means good contributions from them and donations and whatever. I think even Bernie Sanders has voted for a lot of those foreign aid bills. And if anybody tells you, oh, you're being very isolationist in doing this, or you're being very what's the word, intolerant or something, you say no, that it hasn't solved anything. Massive military aid hasn't solved anything. All this government spending on things that like that haven't solved anything. So for example, I looked in Ohio. There's a guy, not in the best physical shape, but you know, everybody needs to lose a few pounds, myself included. But this is Mike Gibbons. For example, I found him. I'll probably vote for him for Senate. If he loses in the primary, the other guy running is whatever. I mean, he's not the worst, but he'd definitely be better than Sherrod Brown, who's our current senator. And look, Ohio is a state. I tried to explain to somebody today who wouldn't listen to fucking reason. Ohio is trending away from the Democrats. I don't know if it's going to be. I mean, unfortunately, the Republicans that run this state have their heads up their asses too. They could pretty much run the table on everything. They could run the table on everything. The state could be completely. The economy could be literally liberalized the way liberalized really means, more economic freedom and everything, and right to work and all of that, if they would actually fight for those principles. What happened was we had a governor, John Kasich, who we still have that idiot, who put it up, had it voted on, then it went up for ballot issue. He didn't defend it. He did nothing. Did nothing. Let the unions walk all over him, and we still have closed shop here in the state. What we need are people who are basically warriors, and you have to basically elect people that are as hardcore as it gets. And Ohio is trending away from the Democrats. There was already a steel plant opened in Lorain County here, which is a major pro-union county in the state. Longtime union supporters. If that type of thing continues, it's going to be more and more difficult for the Democrats to continue to win in these races in the industrial parts of the state. That would be Lorain County and Mahoning County and whatever. Those things matter. If you live in a shitty inner city part of the state, or if you live in one of those more cosmopolitan areas in the state where people are yuppies and they all live close to a Guess jeans store or something, and they sip their chai lattes, and they all line up for the next iPhone, and they're a bunch of and there's all these hipsters milling around. Then yeah, you probably think that your state is a blue state or whatever. But in Ohio, for real, if you look at the past few elections, it's been a complete border. It's been a curb stomping, basically. It's starting in 2010 when Kasich, who's an idiot by the way, defeated what's that guy's name? Ted Strickland, who was our first Democratic governor in years. The Democrats have basically lost everything statewide except for Sherrod Brown, who's up for re-election this year. He won last time because Obama was up for election, and a lot of people went out to vote for Obama, so they voted for Sherrod Brown. But he's defeatable. They have to play hardball. They have to play really, really hard. Full court press. Talk about the Second Amendment, which you're about to get to. Talk about the issues of the tax cuts, which Sherrod Brown voted against. Talk about all of those problems, and basically, Sherrod Brown doesn't have many accomplishments to point at over here in the state. He's he's been in politics his entire life. There's other people who haven't been who are more qualified than him, including Gibbons. Also, the other guy who I'm not going to mention his name because screw it. I'll wait. I'll wait. If he wins the primary, maybe I'll talk about the other guy. But fuck it. Mike Gibbons, he's my choice right now. Now in the governor's race, So anyway, the big issues here in Ohio, yes, Second Amendment, the jobs, which are they are starting to really pile up here in Ohio. By the way, I'm seeing more and more every day, and there's the other issue is the pharmaceutical industry. So you could attack Sherrod Brown's record on big pharma. We do have a real centrist asshole Republican in the other Senate seat, Rob Portman. The guy's a disgrace. He's a complete joke. He's one of the reasons that he's the classic nice guy Republican. I'd say that Rob Portman. I think that last time, in 2016, he was up for re-election when Donald Trump was up for re-election. I just left that race blank because I knew he was going to win anyway. So fuck him. Why am I going to support this asshole? So I didn't vote in that election, and he still destroyed Ted Strickland 2-1, 2-1, because ultimately Ted Strickland was such a shitty governor that I think they gave up on him having any chance in the race. I think in September. That was when they thought Donald Trump would get destroyed. They already gave up on Ted Strickland, the Democratic candidate for Senate. Okay, so other issues besides that. John Bolton not getting elected, but getting appointed as the next National Security Advisor. Yeah, that's another thing I'm going to oppose. It's not the omnibus spending bill is worse, and it makes me much more disappointed and angry at the Trump administration than appointing John Bolton. I didn't want John Bolton as a national security advisor. He was a candidate very early on as well for Secretary of State, I think, and he had been ambassador to the UN under George Bush, and I think he lost out for the national security advisor to Michael Flynn, who probably with all of his flaws and his bad decision making on a personal level, it does not have. He didn't start the Iraq War, so there's no other way to say it. so I mean, yeah, Michael Flynn with the Turkey lobbying and I don't know what happened with RT, but it's not collusion. But those are some questionable decisions that are not illegal. with all those flaws and all the issues with that, and some of the blunt and sharing fake news once in a while, still better than John Bolton. And I would still take Michael Flynn over John Bolton, and certainly over H.R. McMaster, who was just garbage. There's a little logic to this, and I think if it's limited to this, then I'm not so pissed off about this. But it says President Trump's new national security advisor is reportedly planning major staffing changes at the National Security Council. Sources close to the situation told Foreign Policy that John Bolton is preparing to clean house and remove nearly all the political appointees brought in by his predecessor. Bolton can and will clean house, one former White House official told Foreign Policy. Another former, so Foreign Policy is a major is a major globalist magazine, and by globalist I mean they believe in the UN and crap like that. So don't get any fucking ideas about who I'm talking about. They're explicitly against their four open borders and stuff like that, and they support Angela Merkel, and they take money from the German embassy. So Foreign Policy is a magazine that is published in Washington, D.C., and they're openly globalist, even if they'll deny it. Another former official said any National Security Council officials appointed under former President Obama should start packing their shit. That's what it says here in the Hill. This is, I mean, I'd say this isn't bad. What do you guys think? And put your comments below. Um, so I highlighted that. Anybody wants to see it. Foreign Policy reported that Bolton is planning to remove dozens of current officials with a focus on those who have been disloyal to the president. Bolton is the newest high-level addition to the Trump administration. The president announced late Thursday via tweet that Bolton would be replacing H.R. McMaster, making him Trump's third national security advisor in just 14 months. The shakeup just days after Trump also came just days after Trump also fired his Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, replacing him with CIA Director Mike Pompeo. By hiring Bolton, many have speculated that Trump is moving to the right on foreign policy issues. Bolton has been a harsh critic of the Iran nuclear deal and supported the Iraq war as former President George W. Bush's ambassador to the United Nations. He also penned an op-ed making the case for a strike on North Korea. So, no, I think that the important input for him, hopefully, will be more internally within the White House and firing people that were Obama appointees. Now, yes, if he does do things like have been alluded to in terms of starting wars with other countries, well, that would show that Trump has his mind has gone soft, or that he's merely full of shit. And yes, he's gone into the whole business of starting wars in other countries that nobody should support. But I'll tell you why I don't think that necessarily will happen. In order to open the door to China, the U.S. elected in the 60s, 1968, they elected Richard Nixon, who was the most hardcore anti-communist of the 50s, and that was one of the reasons he was in the Eisenhower administration. He was basically a McCarthyist, and when he was elected in 68, people thought, oh, this guy is going to be awful. He's going to basically make it impossible for us to deal with the Soviet Union and China on the international stage. Well, in reality, the opposite happened. Literally the opposite thing happened. President Nixon went to China for the first U.S. president to visit communist China, and started to open the door with China. Morally, that's not it's an ambiguous position, because China was a horrible country under Mao. One of the most, I would say he's the most evil person who ever lived. That's me. I've had Sun Feiyang on here, and he says that it wasn't necessarily a malicious type of person, but it was a failed policy. Well, failed policies don't usually kill 30 million people from a forced famine. This was an evil person, in my opinion. But yeah, Nixon did open the door to China. He also was very good at dealing with the Soviet Union. They started, he started actually visiting those countries and leading to détente. And by the way, when he was vice president, he'd also he was very good at dealing one-on-one with Soviet leaders when he was vice president under Eisenhower. And that's one of the few, and if there's anything good you can say about Nixon, it was that. He was a great foreign policy president in terms of engaging with hostile countries like the Soviet Union and Russia, the Soviet Union and China. Also, he signed the Paris Accords that ended the Vietnam War. It took him a long time to do it, but he did do it. Johnson never even tried. President Johnson never tried. So what does this have to do with John Bolton? Well, by embracing a person by Donald Trump bringing in Bolton, and he's already planning to go to North Korea to do a deal to denuclearize North Korea. He's showing that, first of all, he's not going to have somebody who's a pussy like McMaster around. He wants somebody who's going to be a complete, hard ass. And if there's anything you can say to Bolton's credit, which I don't have much, is that under Bush he was basically an attack dog. He was probably more Bushy than George Bush, and now, because he's broken with the neocons, supposedly. There's always a chance he could stab Trump in the back and be more towards the Bush end of the party. But well, in this case, he serves as kind of the bad cop in the good cop bad cop relationship with Trump, and I think in that respect, if not in every other respect, he could be good. Other areas, I don't think he would be a good pick. For example, with regards to Iran, I'd rather have John Kelly and James Mattis deal with that and try to put Iran on slow burn. And eventually, I think that economically, to some degree, yes, the accord has to be scrapped. You have to get rid of a lot of the provisions of the accord, and you have to reimpose some of the restrictions that we had on commerce with Iran, and end the Iran nuclear accord for good. But going to war with them, no. I would never go to war with a country that could already own nuclear weapons. Those that don't think that Iran could already have nukes, I think you're being very naive about it. Also, they have a very potent military, and they also have very powerful allies in terror groups. And they have deep influence in South America and places like that. So yeah, John Bolton, no, not a good pick. Is there a way that Trump could spin it to his advantage? Yeah, absolutely. There's the people have been talking about Steven Mnuchin as a horrible pick. I think he was a horrible pick too. But ultimately, if you have if you can force your cabinet members to impose policies that you believe in, despite their own flaws, then you do have an advantage. He can fire these people anytime. I think eventually he's going to fire Mnuchin, or Mnuchin's gonna quit and go work at some other evil bank, and keep doing the villain face. You ever see his face, Mnuchin? Got some money. That's the whole gimmick behind that. That he picked people that were so, in some cases they were such grotesque, disgusting people that people almost hate them worse than they hate Trump. So when he fires them, nobody gives a fuck. That's why when Tillerson got fired, I was like, okay, he got fired. Pompeo is also not good. So yeah, a lot of horrible picks by Donald Trump. But overall, economic policy has been working. The Dow hasn't been performing well, right? But there will be more GDP growth. The stock market will have to adapt to this. But yeah, there's certain things that are not dependent on that. He has to be putting a lot of pressure on these states to manage their pensions better, and finding ways to get out of debt. And that's why the omnibus spending bill is the worst part of what's going on lately. And the Bolton thing is secondary. As for the March for Our Lives, those kids are fucking morons. There's let me see here. There's actually an article here from USA Today that high schoolers still like their guns even after Parkland. There's many things that go into a solution for this, and it's not guns, said Melanie Clark. We're definitely in the minority for believing it's not guns. It says a USA Today Ipsos poll taken after the Parkland shooting found fewer than half of students 13 to 17 think tightening gun laws and background checks would prevent mass shootings. The Pew Research Center in an April 2017 poll found 39% of people 18 to 29 said protecting gun rights is of chief importance. Compare that to 58% who favor gun control. Pro-gun high school students told USA Today the school shooting problem is complex, but they maintain guns aren't the problem. They say more can be done as it relates to school security, mental health, and background checks. Some argue that those calling for gun control are uninformed about and unfamiliar with firearms. Marjorie Stoneman Jr., Kyle Kashev, a firm Second Amendment supporter, opposes banning assault weapons. School shootings, he said, are driven by faulty communication and reporting of prior convictions, along with mental health issues. So, I've talked about Kashev here. There's plenty. uh, there's yeah, that's a funny tweet here, but that's about it. I think that yeah, that March for Our Lives was pretty much a joke in my mind. I don't care if people think, oh, you don't make fun of people; they're survivors. Look, if you're a survivor of something, and you think that the solution is to make you more defenseless in the face of it, then you should probably think about your own mental health. Okay, you have to stop telling other people how to live their lives, and maybe think about ways to make yourself stronger and more robust in the face of outside threats, and that might include buying a firearm. So see you guys later. Let me know what you think. This was a bold quick take, and I'll see you later today.